Hi, everyone. It's Marcy here with PNS and Nina. Super excited. We have Nick from Jurat today to do a demonstration of this electronic journal, which I love. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. When I told everyone we were going to do this, people were like, I use Jurat. I love it. It's the best. Lots of great comments. People were really excited to tell other notary friends that they use it. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. I'm going to let you do an intro. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll get the demo started.
Got it. Okay, so I'm typing in the chat before you forget, making sure that everybody feels if you've seen my presentation before, you know I like the intimacy of groups in which we can discuss openly and field questions. I always struggle when the people who are hosting these, that would be Marcy in this case, but she's never done this to me. But when they have such a hard cutoff time that I feel like I'm leaving 25 questions in the wind, I just always feel so guilty. So I do love the questions. And as I'm going over things and these questions come to you, if your brain is like mine, if you don't grab on hard enough, that thought and question might just vanish. So make sure you throw it into the chat, and I'll just go and I'll peruse the chat towards the end as well and make sure I get everything. But a lot of the questions sometimes are very specific on something I'm going over in a demo, and people are like, "Gosh, okay, I'd really like to nail in on this and get better understanding." But then I keep chatting, and then that's the end of it. So
Yeah,
as long as you
drop it
guys
in the
feel
chat,
comfortable.
and I'll interrupt too as we go along if I see it
Okay,
or if I think of something as well.
sweet. That is awesome. So what I want to do with you guys is I want to show you what we have done most recently, which is version 2. Version 2 is uh, the culmination of user feedback from pretty much the inception of the product or the launch, at least, right? So we started developing in 2017. I'm a California notary, as is my wife, escrow officer, and notary, and so we were the founders, and then we had one other founder who was the main tech guy. Launched in 2020. So here we are now, about 3 or 4 years later, with a lot of traction, which is really exciting. And I think my favorite thing is getting the input from all of these different notaries from different states, finding out how you guys work and how you guys do things so different than how we do it. But when we created the product, it was meant to solve problems. And the main problem is just the clunky, slow, redundant information input that hardbound journals require. And so we wanted to just create a better solution for that than anything that was available on the market. So that's pretty much our focus as a company, is always getting the feedback from everybody from all these different states and making sure that we can incorporate it into new features and development so that the product continues to work for everybody. You'd be surprised at how different notaries are across different state lines. And so for example, we don't do personally known. So when we launched the product, I didn't have that in there as a way to select how you identified the signer. And then people, started to harp on me pretty quickly about personally known. And I said, "Gosh, what is this concept of personally known?" And there you go. So it's always you'd be surprised at how different people work across states, and it's very, very important for me to always be on top of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen once Marcy gives me screen sharing capabilities. I'm sorry, Marcy.
No,
I have
you're
been.
fine. I think I gave it to you, but tell me if you don't see it on your side.
I now see it. Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Beautiful. So, and if you guys see my eyes, by the way, wander, I set up a few new monitors for myself. So I work on a few different monitors that are up. I'm not just looking for guidance from up above or anything, but I know sometimes people see the face wander. It looks a little weird. So here we go. We're going to start off with this demo. The biggest thing that we did here differently with this is created a web app that was uh, fully functional compared to our original. So when we launched, we were mobile heavy, very mobile, Android and iOS. But the web app, so when you logged onto the website, you had very minimal functionality, and mainly it was to view and export. Now, exporting is still only done on the web, and that's probably going to be the case for quite some time. The use case for being able to export an entry to a mobile device isn't quite there. So you'll see that there is some functionality exclusive to the web app, but this is, in a nutshell, the landing page of our new web app. Now, if you're already a user and you haven't signed into the web app for a long time because you have been with us long enough, you're just mobile, give it a shot and take a look, because there's a lot of new stuff we're trying to do here. And we also want to do what our users have been requesting for a long time, which is give you guys insight into the information in your journal in a way that you didn't have access to before. So, for example, these cool widgets here, we just started to populate these widgets with information that we have that's available and tangible. But we always want the feedback for, hey, what do you guys want to see here? How do you want to see the breakdown? So, for example, now you can come in here, you have the last 7 days selected. You could see the fees you've collected. You could see the fees by category, the document types. So this is really awesome for you to start to just see things about your business that you might not be aware of. It might be things that you might need for accounting purposes or just for your own internal purposes for like, hey, gosh, I didn't know I did so many loan signings or so many trust documents. But then you can see how many documents of each type you're using. And then the fees as well, too, the breakdown of the fees, see where most of your money's coming from. So the goal here is for us to be able to provide you guys insight into the data. And that's, I think, one of the huge value points for going digital. Now, I'm well aware of the fact that many people are hesitant to go digital from a hardbound journal. And I always tell those people, like, if you have your habits of journaling and your hardbound journaling, you're very comfortable and you're set, then I'm not trying to persuade you to jump ship. Our product is a digital product, but you have to be willing to adopt, a digital workflow in order for you to benefit from it. And there's no harm if you are just a hardbound journaling kind of person. Obviously, that's how I did it for years. My wife as well. Many people have stacks of these journals. But really, a lot of what we're trying to do is not just give you a better solution for actually journaling, but then to give you insight into it so that you can learn from the information or somehow benefit from either being able to provide more information to another party, people who are requesting an entry, people who are subpoenaing, whatever it might be, more insight into your business without crossing over, by the way, into an accounting specific software. So a lot of people do ask for features that would start to make this product cross over into like a notary assist, for example. And we're very, very careful with what they call feature creep, which is something in the tech environment where you just keep thinking of all these great ideas and then you just add them in. So we try to be careful of that. We want to add in features, remove them if they're not being utilized, for example. But in this case, the information being displayed here is always something that we want your input from in terms of what you want to see. But it is nice to be able to just see at a glance what you've been doing. And that way you can make some decisions based on that. So this is the new dashboard landing page. And then you have the majority of stuff that you would already have access to in the mobile app, right? You can see your journal. This is still how you export things. You could always search by a few of the most important search tags, typically the name of the signer. That's going to be the quickest way for you to figure that one out. And you could view your entries. Once you view them, you can export them to PDF. So not much has changed in how the process works for exporting things. And not a lot of people need to export on an ongoing basis, but some people do like exporting, we'll say on a monthly basis, and they want to be able to just export the month. And then they want to just maybe put it on their hard drive somewhere. Now, we always tell people to be careful with the data because when it's here, it's at rest and it's encrypted and it's secure and it is on the servers that are managed and hosted with AWS, very secure, very, very well taken care of. The moment you export that onto a PDF and you have it on your own computer, you introduce the opportunity for you to lose custody of that through some type of event. Now, maybe your computer gets hacked. It's such a lame word to use, hacked. But if you lose access to that, right, you want to be aware of what those documents are at all times. So there's something to be aware of. If you do want to export, you can export on a monthly basis here, and then you can also do custom ranges as well. So custom ranges, you could just select date, or you could just export. And we've been changing the export process a bit so that we can email them to you as well as have you see them on the screen. One of the biggest problems we have, and this is more so because of the browsers are very picky with pop-ups and with anything that wants to open for privacy concerns. So most times when people go in here, they'll hit something like generate report and they'll wait for the backend to generate the report. And when they would download it, then what we would see happen is this thing would pop up and it would say your pop-up's blocked. And a lot of people would then get very anxious, very frustrated. They would say it didn't work. They would reach out to support and they would get very mad and say, where is it? It's not coming. But then what you would see is it would pop up and it would just fail pretty much at popping up. You'd have to press a button again. So now the way we do it is we generate the report at the same time it's being generated. We also allow you to have it emailed to you. So it'll be emailed to you, and then you'd be able to, I would click that, but it wouldn't do the screen share, it would pop up. But it would give you that report, and then you'd be able to have that be your email as well too. So exporting is only done on the web. Keep that in mind. Most of you guys know that if you use our product, and most people don't export often, but now you know, and that is very important. So the journal is going to be here, the exporting, the save drafts, and the new entry process. So this part's very big, again, because it is new. This is something you couldn't do on the old web app, but now you can. And this opens the door for a lot of notaries who want to create their entries on a computer screen, on their laptop, in the field. Maybe they don't have to capture as much information as other people. So they get to that position where they say, well, gosh, I don't want to do it on my phone. I want to do it maybe at the end of the week. I want to just be able to sit down and log all my stuff. I don't have to capture signatures, so I don't have to do it contemporaneously with the act. So I can just add them all at the end of the week of the month, right? So this allows you to do that way more effectively now, which is nice. The entire process is going to be similar to the same step-by-step workflow we have on the mobile app. So it is very, very straightforward. We have all of your information saved. Everything pretty much in your profile syncs. So your saved locations, your documents, your document library, your signing packages, all of that stuff is going to be here as well too. So you can easily input it here. But I do want to point out that we added a new timestamp that changes the way everything is categorized, and that is very important. We have always been very heavy with our audit log timestamps as being the key indicator for when things happened. But now we added in one more manually selected date and time of notarization. And this does go hand in hand with people who do want to create these journal entries not contemporaneously with the act. They want to do it later, or they want to backfill their journal with information so they can just have old entries from their old hardbound journal available to them digitally. So you can now select that. But the great thing about that is that the actual timestamp for when you're doing things is, of course, going to be still accurate to when you're doing them in real time. And so the audit log will always display when the thing was created, but now you also have that notarization date and time. And that allows things to be categorized based on this new timestamp, which makes more sense sequentially for people. It's not going to be, all over the place based on you thinking that you did one a month ago, you put it in there, but the timestamps are today. So we fixed a few problems with that by creating this new timestamp, allowing people to do that. The audit log is, I'm going to show you guys at the end of the entry, very important for protecting yourself as a notary. So if you aren't aware of how our product works, everything you do is pretty much kept track of, and that way you don't have inadequate information when you need it. And what I'm getting at is a lot of times we've seen notaries who get subpoenaed, and I've been in the industry for a while, my wife as well, and she does escrow. So she's been a part of a lot of situations where notaries have had their journals subpoenaed and they've been requested to appear in court. And what we've seen many times is that the information that they have in their journal is inadequate to support the cause and the reason that they're being subpoenaed. So this isn't like some type of event where they're being reprimanded as a notary for not capturing enough information. It just so happens that the information captured, whether it was per state code or not, wasn't sufficient to support the lawsuit or the court case or whatever it might have been. And that to me is just a disappointment, because we as a public servant, as a notary, we put a lot out there on the line to serve the public. And if I were in a situation where my journal entry could help in a fraud case, deter fraud, and get somebody put in jail for doing something along the lines of fraud, which is really bad, then I would be very happy. I want to be able to catch the bad guys. I want to be able to get them and not let them get away with what they want to get away with. So in my opinion, the more data you have, the better. So the timestamps are going to be following everything you do. We'll go to step 2 now. We're going to go ahead and just add information so that you guys can see how it works. Now make sure that you add their ID But if you have a different method of identifying them, credible witnesses, personally known, you can select those. In this case, I'm going to hit save a signer without identification, and it's going to create what we call like a no identification type of identification. And this is just for us to easily allow you to move forward. If you want to create a draft, you can do that. And then you can come back and make sure you adjust the identification to reflect what you are now seeing when you're in front of that person. Now, on that note, I know I just talked about drafts, and drafts are very close to syncing between web and mobile. They don't do that quite yet. And I know it sounds backwards, but being that we were a mobile heavy product up until January of this year, we didn't need to have draft sync anywhere else. Now that we have this web app, it changed the entire data model on the back end, and it did require us to reevaluate how the draft syncing is going to work. And therefore, we've been developing a better solution that will be rolled out in the coming weeks. But right now, if you create a draft on the computer and then you go into the field and you open up your phone, you won't see the draft. You'll see everything else synced, all your saved entries, but not the draft. Drafts are stored locally on the device that you created on. So the way it works for people now is that they just use their phone, they open it up, they create the draft on the phone, then they go out into the field, they're still on their phone, the draft is already there, and they complete it. But we need to be able to make that sync between web and mobile. That's coming very soon. So this here, I added that person. Let me actually go ahead and add, let me add another signer so we could do,
Nick, I want to ask a quick question before I forget, because I will forget. I know that you said that it's stored securely, so they don't need to download it, but they can if they want to. I assume it's in everything that there's a backup somewhere as well. So should something happen to their journal in that first place, there's a backup stored someplace also. Am I correct in saying that?
There is a backup. Yep. So there is a backup that we have that is very, very difficult to it's a backup. I'm trying to find the right words to help people understand it without being overly tech heavy with the lingo. It's like you're deciphering a code and piecing the puzzle together. We have the data stored, but it's raw data. And so if something were to happen, for example, and we needed to reconstruct an entry that something happened to somehow, we could, with the backup of the signing entry, we have the raw data and we can definitely decode it and make it a signing again, make it look like an entry so that we have access to the data. But it's definitely not a process that is friendly. And it's that way on purpose. We don't want the backups to be compromised in any type of way that allows them to circumvent the original storage of data and then go to the back end and get that data as well. So yes, you are correct though to say that there is a backup of the data stored.
Right. And if they leave Jurat at any time, what happens to the information? Do you retain it and they would have access to what they've used already? Would they need to download it and take it with them?
So what we have done, we've changed the way we do that in the past few years. We used to have a retention subscription that allowed you to pay a reduced fee to just have access to the data. Now we just have access. We give you access to it while you have an active subscription. If you cancel your subscription, we don't delete your account and we don't delete your data ever unless you instruct us explicitly to do so. So what would happen is if you cancel your subscription, then you'll run it through the billing cycle, say it ends the next month. Then when you go to log into the app, it'll say you don't have a subscription, sorry. Then what you can still do is log into the website. You log into the web app. You'll see everything is pretty much restricted. It will give you access to your payment management and your subscriptions, where you can go in, reactivate your subscription to then regain access to all of your entries. They will not have been deleted at any point because we don't do that. We did it at one point, and then one person got very angry because they canceled their subscription and came back a very long time after that and then said, I need it because I'm getting subpoenaed. And I said, sorry, man. And it was rough because I hate disappointing people. So even though we had all the prompts to say, if you delete your subscription and cancel it, then you're going to lose the data and all this stuff. And he was well aware of that. But so that's the long story on that one. All the data is retained indefinitely. We don't charge you a retention subscription fee anymore to host the data, even after you cancel your subscription. So you can cancel your subscription and the data will be safe. You just won't be able to access it until you reactivate your subscription again. Does that make sense?
It does. Perfect. I only had one other question. Well, I'm going to reiterate for everyone that you are available both for Apple and Android, right? So they can use it on any sort of operating system. I want to reiterate that as well. But do they have to have access to the internet when they're inputting this information out in the field?
No, no. So we have a very functional offline mode, which is one of the key selling points for our product over any others on the market. And it's a very small market, by the way. But this offline mode is, of course, something that is only functional on mobile because it's an application. You can't do it on web because if you go anywhere on a laptop and then you open up the laptop and you have no internet service and you can't log in, period. That's not going to change because this isn't a piece of software that lives on your computer. This is a web app, so you just log into it. But the mobile app, right? So you have your iPad, you have your Android device, whatever it might be. We give you a 12-hour offline window from your last point of authentication. So that means that pretty much we tell people if you have a signing event that will take place out in the world, out in the wilderness, and you think that you might not have a connection, just go ahead and log into the app when you're at home before you go. And then if you get to the appointment a few hours later, then we give you 12 hours, right? If you get to the appointment later in the day and you open up your phone and it says no service and you open up the app, you're still good. You can still create the entry. You'll lose certain functionality that requires the internet, like detect my location, right? You can't push that and have it, populate your location based on the GPS of your device because you're not connected, right? But other than that, you'd be able to create the entry, save it. It'll be saved as a saved and completed draft, and then you would just upload it later when you get back into a place where you have service.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. You can move forward. I just knew I would forget if I didn't ask.
I'm glad you asked. Very important questions.
Thank you.
So we have two people now. We have our signers. These are very important. We have their identification, which is none. We could have added some, but I'm just trying to make it easy for you guys. Step 3 is going to be the meat and potatoes where you add documents and fees and whatnot. Now, one of the new things that we added with version 2 was just additional selection of fees. So now you can add more and more fees, and that allows us to keep track in a better manner. You saw the dashboard widgets too. They were really awesome because it gives you a breakdown of everything. So you could really break down your fees here in a better way with these additional fees. Then we add the documents. So this is going to open up the document library. You could always create a new document type on the fly. So we give you a decent library, but what we found was that there's nothing that was going to fit every single industry notary's needs. So people kept requesting these documents, and we just said, forget it. We'll give you a set of docs, but just, you could customize your document library, which is really cool. So it just makes it so that you could make it tailored to your industry. You could delete a whole bunch if you don't use them. You can go ahead and add a new type. So new deed for all of my houses. That would definitely not be a real document title, but you associate the notarization type with it, and you could always do other and then type if needed. But in this case, we're going to just do an acknowledgement, and we're going to go ahead and save that new document type. Now I could use that in this entry. So I'll just pop up a few here. I could favorite them as well, too. This is actually new. That way you could favorite the documents you use over and over again, and then you could just sort them by favorite as well, too. So in this case, I have 3 documents. Now, this is important. I'm going to go ahead and just spend a moment discussing this part with people so that they really wrap their heads around it. There's a very good reason why we prompt you through the data capture when we do and where it goes in terms of the hierarchy of the data on the back end. We have the signers on step 2 so that we can then associate them with the docs that you add on step 3. That's very important. So now you can see anytime I select the document, I add it in, here it comes, and now we have both people who are associated with it. Now, if you do have a situation where it's a title-only spouse, they're not signing all the same docs as the other person. So let's say that John is not signing the car transfer note form here. And usually it's going to be like a lender doc where the person getting the loan is going to sign more than the person who's just on title but not on the loan. So in that case, you could just easily remove the association of that person to that document, and it's as easy as that. So now when you move forward, John won't be associated with the car note transfer, only Jane will be. And so this is what allows us to give you a streamlined process for an entire signing event. And it's one of those things where people need to take a moment to understand what we're trying to accomplish here based on comparing it to old hardbound journals where you would just have a line item per each single notarization that you performed. Now we have this event called the signing, right? And then you go into the signing. It's when you create your notary journal entry. Go to step 1, you capture the data. Step 2, you add the signer. Step 3, the docs. But now you don't have to go back and forth if Jane is signing different documents or less than John. You could easily just disassociate them. And the same thing goes for sometimes you'll have, mom and dad there and they're gifting something or granting something, or they only need to sign a few documents here. You could just keep them all in the same signing event that you're creating here. When you added them as signers in step 2, then you would just remove them from every other document that they're not on and keep them on the ones that they are signing. So we want to make it very easy, and you don't have to go back and forth with redundant data entry. That was one of the biggest problems that I found as a notary in general prior to making this product, was having to rewrite everything was a hassle. So we have all of our document notes too. These are document-specific notes that are saved with the document. You could write whatever you want there. These are additional notes for the entire signing as well. So we give you plenty of notes, places to write notes. And the notes are accessible after you save the entry. Everything else gets locked down once you save the entry, because that is by law what you have to do. It has to be tamper evident. And that's why we have the audit log as well too. We want to make sure that it is known when the data was touched. And the only thing that you can touch after the fact is the notes. You can erase a note. You could write new notes. That stuff is not going to alter the actual information from the original signing event. And so just an important thing to note so you guys keep track. Now, remember the one cool thing about our product, if you don't know, it is signing packages. People love these darn things. And it's mostly for people who do high volume work in a lot of loan signings or trust state documents. The signing packages, you could throw them in here. So in this case, you see save package and load package. And what that is it's allowing you to group together almost everything you see on step 3. So say acknowledgement, all of these 3 documents are things I see all the time from the same lender, we'll just say, because I was a loan signing agent. So that was how most of my business was. And I want to save it as a new package. So this is going to be my loan package new 2024 for B of A, Bank of America. So here we go. So now I just saved that signing package for future use. And anytime I want to throw that into an entry, I can do that and then adjust on the fly. So I say I want to load in a package. I'm going to do one of my ones I've saved here, all my other test ones. I'll choose this package. Boom. It just throws in all that information, which is super easy for me to now manipulate, change on the fly. I can go ahead and remove signers, just like we talked about. So keep in mind that the things that are saved to that signing package aren't things like the specific signers in them. So some people do have questions about that. No. You can just throw in the loaded package, and then it'll be associated with all the signers who are now currently in that entry, not the ones that were in it when you saved the package originally. So this has all the fees that are associated with that package as well too. It makes it super easy. You could remove it. Say this one doesn't have the certification of trust. I just remove that, and it's not going to alter the saved package. So it makes it nice and easy for you to just throw in a template, super quick, remove or add on the fly. Now, say I need to add another one. I could just quickly add another one. But that was a lot faster for me than having to worry about the process of redoing all that every single time I saw that same package of information. So that's signing packages. You could always adjust those on the left here. I'll show you guys that in just a moment. We go next. We're going to go ahead and add signatures. Signatures, you hit this button, you're going to have this little thing that pops up, and you can go ahead and just make the mark. Now, on your computer, it's going to depend on what you're using. If you're using a mouse, then the person will use the mouse. I use a trackpad, so I just use one of these things from Apple. So I just use my finger, I click down on it, and I start writing my signature, and that's it. So that's a signature capture. You can do signature by mark as well too. So signature by mark workflows are not typically something that are required by law to be captured in the journal. Very nuanced, but we give it to you anyway, so you could capture that if you want. Let's just get these signatures out of the way here. 1 and 2. I go next. No thumbprints, obviously. That's not linked to web right now. Our digital thumbprint capture technology is mobile only at this point in time. So no thumbprints. Then we go to the review step here. We have all the information. And then we have the audit log that shows all the steps we took. Last step here is where you could put that email address in and send them the email for what just happened. Now, why would you use this? Now, this feature turned out to be a lot of people's favorite features because it allows you to brand yourself as a notary and and kind of network a bit more, and just seem a bit more professional. So the point of this is you're done with your signing and you say, great, John Doe, it was really nice to meet you. Do you want to receive an email of what we just went through? And that way you could have that for your records. I say, sure, no problem. So then you put their email in there and then you hit add recipient. And what we'll do on the back end is we're going to generate, the server will generate a email, an automated email. It gets sent to that email address and it just tells them the very, very, very basic information, pretty much the who, right? Who did you see, the signers? What documents were being signed, date and time. And this is information that is required by law in many states if a signer needs to make a formal request to the notary or to the Secretary of State in order to receive a copy of a notary journal, so a genuine copy, they have to have certain information. So we provide that information so that they can easily find it in their email box, but we don't send them an actual copy of the notary journal entry. It's not like an official copy. There's a lot of information in the entries that's sensitive. We don't want to just blast out on the email. So it is not a copy of the journal entry. I need to emphasize that. But secondary as well too, and this is where the value comes in, is that you have your contact information here. This is edited in your profile, but you could also edit it on the fly right here. And this is where you could put all of your information for your business that allows you to brand yourself. And then this is included in the email that they get. And the power there is for you to give the quality service that you give to your people. And then when they need you in a few months' time to get something else notarized, they might not be able to have access to the hard business card that you gave them, right? Because not many people have an actual filer for them like I do. Most people just throw them somewhere or lose them, put them in a drawer. Right. But now they can just go into their email and they could just search for their email for, some keywords about notarization jurat, and they could find the email. Oh, great. This is the person who gave me a great signing experience last time. So let me go ahead and reach out to them. I have their contact information and done. It makes it really easy for you to create a connection with your people and network. But right now we don't give you guys as the notaries that email address that they input here. And we do that because we don't want to erode the trust between us, you, and the signer. We don't want to create a situation where they feel like, okay, well, I put an email in, but then it's going to get thrown onto some email list. And somebody might do that. Some notary might just think, great, okay, well, they gave it to me, so I should be able to put them on my contact list. And all of a sudden, this person gets spam. And then they look in the email and like, Jurat, it was Jurat Inc. They're horrible people, and that notary is horrible. So we don't give you that email address, although people request it all the time. Maybe we'll change in the future. I'm not quite sure. But just so you guys know, that email address, you ask for it, you plug it in, sends them that email, and you're good to go. So very popular feature right there, which is nice. I'm going to go ahead and complete this entry. They're going to go ahead and upload to the server and save. And then that way you guys can see the audit log and how that whole thing looks. So if you notice, I created that entry and I picked the 1st of April. So you see the sequential nature of my journal, right, it's not at the top. It's going to be April 1st. And it is very important for people who want to backdate their stuff. But then the audit log, when you go down to the bottom, at the top, we have the 3 most important timestamps, which are going to be indicative of when it was really created. So there's no fudging of those numbers. Everything is very secure there and very transparent. The unique identifier that our server uses internally to identify that entry, and then the audit log down here. Every time you did anything, we keep track of it. Very important to give you this level of granular insight into your actions as a notary, into your journal entries in general. Very, very important in our opinion. So, by the way, you can strike. Now I see this down here. You can strike this entry just so you guys know what that means. You can't tamper with this data now that it's saved, right? You can see you could add notes. But you cannot tamper with it and delete anything here because that's illegal. But you can strike it, and striking it, it's like what you would do if you accidentally started writing on an entry in your hardbound journal and you wanted to get rid of it. Just mark it off, and then go down to the next line item, and you would do the next one. Same exact thing. So we strike it, and then we just create the illusion of it being a little bit less important in general. And that is going to be seen down here. Let's see. I could unstrike it as well, but I don't think I need to unstrike it. And it's not displaying the line through it. So it's stricken. You could unstrike it. And on that note of striking and unstriking entries, it's also important for me to discuss. Here you go. Now you can see it. I refresh the page. It is stricken. It's red, which looks very apparent that you don't want that entry to matter very much to you. But it's also very apparent to anybody looking that you did the entry and you're not trying to cover up anything illegal or fraudulent, or you're just adhering the best you can to the laws of maintaining a digital journal, which is a tamper-evident workflow. That is exactly what this is. So just so you know, guys know, that was at the bottom. You view the entry, you hit strike, or in this case, you could unstrike it. You could go up here to the top, and on the note of striking, we could do privacy mode as well too. So privacy mode was a newer feature with version 2, just in case you have a situation where you have people who might be wandering eyes looking at your screen and you don't want them to see any signers' names or sensitive information. You just turn that on and the data is still fine and intact when you open it up, but it hashes everything else in the meantime. So we did get that request. And so you can just turn on privacy mode, and that's going to be also on mobile and on web apps. So pretty cool with that one. And then we have all the other options we talked about, your document library, your signing packages, your favorite locations. You can manage all of that here. Your user profile, where you have all the important information about yourself. Notes, we try to give you as many notes sections as you can for your journal, but then we also have oath and affirmation scripts. This is very useful for the people who are in the field and they use their phone, because you can just have an oath or an affirmation statement. You can edit it, and then you can make it say whatever you want. We give you a few templates here, so everybody's account defaults with these things. And this way, if you do give, you perform a jurat and you're giving an oath and you need somebody to talk in a very specific verbiage, you can just have them repeat after you by pulling up your app on your phone, or you can pull it up here as well too, instead of having a separate cheat sheet or a separate solution. This gets the job done for you right there. Your official statement as a notary, some states require you to make a official statement. And usually the official statement is to the effect of what would happen to the journal upon your death or adjudication. Adjudication. There we go. I think that's the word I was looking for. Very important for specific states, but not for every state. So signature, you could add your own signature as well too. Some states require you to sign your journal, so just throw that in there. You get the same cool, easy to use prompt there, and then you're good to go. So very important to fill this all out when you create your entry. And then we do have something called Persist ID, and this is also an option available on mobile. And this is going to pretty much omit on the ID scanning the serial number itself. So I'll show you guys out in the mobile in just a second, but it's pretty straightforward. Some states don't allow you to capture that information. Instead of making you go manually delete it, this will just omit it for you. So pretty nice there. You could have all your commission information. You could add multiple commissions. I mean, gosh, there's pretty much a lot of the stuff that we've always had. You can block devices if needed. So say your phone gets stolen, come in here and block it. Make sure that whoever's on that phone playing with your stuff can't play with this stuff. So you can go ahead and block that and make sure that they have no access to it. So that's also pretty powerful for security. Whenever we always recommend, if you get a new phone, you upgrade, you get rid of your old one, then come in here and make sure that you block it, make sure you remove it. And that way you don't have to worry about anybody somehow finding a way to access the information by using your old device. Another thing we have is the new section here called the feature requests. We talk about how important it is to get your feedback, guys. So this here allows you to participate in the conversation. You can see here, these are all of our users who are just coming in and, putting in what they want to see. That you can go in here and you can, see the comments being made. You can upvote it. Very social media like, which is really cool, and just a nice way to see what other people want, and maybe you want the same exact thing, so you could chime in and add some value there. So we always recommend, please go in here and participate, and that way we keep making the product better, like we talk about. We do have an affiliate program here for people who do want to spread the word about the product. Anybody who's an active user can apply for that. And I think really what we did is we just nailed the entire workflow pretty well for web. And so what I want to do is I want to see if anybody has any questions on web really quickly. And that way I can show you guys if anybody wants to see it on mobile, we can easily do that. But let me see if anybody has any questions first.
I don't see any questions, but I have a question because we're
Yes, please
talking
ask.
about fraud and things like that. So let's talk about who has access to that journal besides the notary. Hi, puppy, coming on in to our webinar. Good to see you.
Sweet.
And he's looking right at me. I love that. So, let's say a signer comes along and says, "Hey, I asked, the notary for a copy of their journal entry, and she or he won't give it to me. Can you give that to me?" Right? Or if you receive a subpoena or the Secretary of State, like who besides the notary would have access to their journal entries?
So, I mean, this is a very similar discussion to what we've seen over the past few years with companies like Apple, and dealing with the police department when they want to find out more information. They want to access a phone, but that phone is not something that they have
Sure.
the right to access unless they go through the proper channel. So we do have some proper internal channels for any legal entity that needed to request documentation, because at the end of the day, right, the data is hosted in our environment and we can access it if needed, right? So it's not like it's a digital solution. So there's always the ability for the developer of the program or the app to access it if we really wanted to for any reason. We'd have to figure out what that reason is, and how that goes in line with the internal documentation of how you go through that process. We are SOC Type 2 compliance. So SOC 2 Type 2 is a lot of people know HIPAA compliance. SOC is like that for companies like ours, where you go through an auditing process on an ongoing basis, and they make sure that you're adhering to proper data storage and handling and management requirements that the industry expects. And so with those expectations are guidelines for who can access certain levels of data, who can go into this part of the AWS, who can go to the RDS, who can go into here. And there are very specific requirements that a person must meet internally. But theoretically, if I needed to, I could call my developers and I could get access to it. If we had a situation where there was something being subpoenaed and somebody died and nobody could access that journal, but they really needed that, I mean, we have a workflow in place for us to be able to take in that request. But usually when people are asking about who has access to the data, it's a more general concern of just data security as a whole, and not so much, the level to which I just described it. So, to touch on that, that's why a few years ago we went out and we said, look, like we need to find a way to increase confidence for users, when it comes to our data storage, our security, and we can only say so much, and they can only take our word at face value. There's a lot of trust involved, right? And so instead of just using fancy keywords and things, we decided as a company to just pay the external money to get the outside auditing firm to come in and start doing these SOC reports. And so we included that workflow into our company so that we can at least prove to our users that we are adhering to the guidelines that are set by and expected from companies like ours in the industry. But most of it is very in the weeds if I try to discuss the specific web map of where everything's going and how the data is managed and who can access it theoretically and hypothetically and whatnot. At the end of the day, what you have is you have your device, which is a phone, we'll say, for example, and in order to get into that phone, they're going to need to get past your PIN code, your password, your Face ID, whatever it might be. And then they're going to have to do that again with your password, Face ID, to get into the app as well, too. So you have, two different things that somebody who is nefarious would need to accomplish and get through in order to access your data. But is it theoretically possible? Absolutely is. And we just do our best to make it very apparent to our user base that we are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, and we willingly and voluntarily go out of our way to make sure that we can show people that we manage and handle data in the most secure way that we possibly can as a company. So I think that's as best as I can put it when it comes to data management. But I will say that there is no other notary product or journal or digital notary anything that is SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. We are the only ones who have gone that far. We are the only ones that have continually got, because you have to do that every year. So you have these time frames and you continue to do it. It seems to me like an easy money grab from these auditing firms, because I mean, that's my frugal side of me saying, gosh, I wish I didn't have to pay you every year. But they say, of course, you have to do it every year. We have to make sure you're still doing it. And I say, fine. Just don't take my word for it. I guess you have to be involved. So it's very important. Data management and data security is top of our list of priorities. And we do everything we possibly can to show our users that, and hopefully that message is relayed properly.
Yeah, perfect. That's what we wanted to kind of have an idea, right? Sensitive information, because every state, as we know, has different requirements for journals. So we want to make sure that each notary is following the rules in their state and that they can use electronic journal, right? That's super important too. Mm-hmm. Any questions, or I will let Nick move on to the next phase. I think we're good. I think you can move on.
Now, I just want to make sure that Lori, who has her hand up, Lori, do you have a question, or that hand has just been up and you're just hanging out?
I think she's just hanging out, but we'll let her respond.
Oh, Lori, if you, the hand's down. Okay, awesome. Yep, that means that, hold on, let me let my other girl out. Come on, girl. Go get him. Good girl. All right, so here we go. Next thing I want to show you guys really quickly is just the mobile app, just so you guys get an idea of, how this goes from the web app to the mobile app. People either pretty much use one or the other on an ongoing basis. But the cool thing is you could, obviously hop between multiple different devices, and there's no problem there. So you can sign in on your iPad and then save your entries and you're good to go. But then you could also sign in on your iPhone later. And that's how I do it. For example, I really, really wanted a product that was going to be a true replacement to my hardbound journal and allow me to just not have to consider bringing all these extra things if I needed to notarize something on the go. And so I'm a big proponent of just using my phone. That's all I use. But a lot of people like to carry their iPads with them or their tablets with them, and that's totally fine too. Everyone has their own preference. But what you'll see here with this process is you're going to see the same type of workflow, 6 steps to get you to the end. The cool thing is that there are a few other features that are just pretty convenient for the people who are using the mobile app. Mainly, it's going to be the ID scanning. If you look at the menus, you're going to have most of the same options, including the fingerprint that is on mobile. We talked about that. But if I go ahead and just go create my entry, I'll show you how quick the process can be. So this is me pretty much just how I do it is I always do my entries at the end of the signing event. So what you're watching in real time is me adding this person's identification. This is going to be my identification. And I'm going to go ahead and just scan the ID. And this is real time. So you see within a matter of seconds, maybe 2, that we have all of the information populated that is needed. We will flag that. So this is where there's a lot of power in our product. We don't just scan the back barcode, right? That's not an adequate solution in my opinion. We do an optical scan on the front, and then we compare that data in real time within that 2-second time frame to the data that's on the barcode and make sure they match. And so what that does is it allows us to create a situation where you can theoretically use a product like ours to help deter fraud by weeding out some of these fake IDs. If they don't have a matching front and back, you're going to know about it. But if they had the barcode scanning, like a barcode scanning product that only scanned the back barcode, you scan that up and then you're good to go and you move forward without taking a deeper look into it, then that person might be able to get away with something bad. So in our case, we take a look at all of the information and we will flag it if it is not cohesive, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab my wallet. I'm going to grab my current ID. So my current ID, I'm going to scan the front of one and the back of another. I want you guys to see how that prompt looks because it is very important. This is when we talk about using the tools of going digital to benefit yourself in ways that you can't do with a hardbound journal. take a look at how this works. Let's go ahead and see if I'm going to close this. I didn't save that. So now I have two different IDs. And you'll notice, guys, I'm going to take just a side, just a quick moment to emphasize it. You don't have to scan the IDs horizontally, like sandwich style, like when we're in elementary school. You can do hot dog style. You can put it in portrait mode, or put it in portrait orientation, and it still scans optically just fine. So you see, as a best practice, because our phones are upright, then I like to scan the ID in an upright manner, and that allows me to get it fuller into the frame, and it scans much faster as opposed to keeping it landscape. So just a quick note on that one. But here you go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and show you how the prompt looks when you have an ID that doesn't match front and back. So we're going to do add identification, same thing, scan ID. I'm going to scan the front, and now I'm going to grab my other one, scan the back. There we go. And it says, whoa, wait a second. Scan result difference. So it's important for me to explain to you guys that, this isn't a catch-all for any and all fraud, right? Our job as a notary is to appear the person and to make the decision to notarize the documents. That's a call we have the honor of making as a public servant. These tools are meant to just help you in your position and where you stand on whether or not this is an actual person and that they're being legitimate and that they appeared before you and that their ID is good. So I emphasize that because we don't want people to just freak out if they see this dialogue, right? Because sometimes there'll be a name that has, two first names, three middle names, a last name, and then a suffix like a junior. And then on the barcode, it didn't have all three middle names, only two of them. One went onto the last name field, and maybe it didn't have the junior, right? So it'll pop the same dialogue up, and it'll let you know what's different. And that's very important to be aware of. So what we always tell people is, gosh, rescan it again, just to make sure that the same problem persists. And then you can take a deeper look at that ID, take a deeper look at that person, and then you can make the call and go from there. But these are all the fields that don't match. Obviously, the only thing that doesn't match is the address, because this is my new and updated one. So I can go ahead and adjust the value on the fly by selecting it. But I do always recommend people to be very aware of the fact that you are meant to put what you see on the ID in the ID fields. That's not really a problem for this, but what I have seen people do as a notary, people who just practice as a notary, this is what they do. They say, oh gosh, well, the address on their ID wasn't the right address. They have an updated address. So then they'll go in here and they'll manually update this address to the new address. And in my opinion, my professional opinion, I say that is not what we're supposed to do. You are supposed to get the ID information that is on the ID presented to you. You could add notes about their address being differently, but don't alter the fields that are being input and related directly to that ID. Keep it as is. Very important, just to put as a note there for you, any notaries who are thinking about that. But there we go. So we have a nice quick dialogue that shows you front and back scan difference. And again, that's really, really quick. This is easily one of our most utilized features. I'll show it to you again. And what you'll notice is I just hold it with, right at the side of the ID, and I don't block any of the barcode information. You could lay it flat on the table, but most of the time we see people have problems. The problems are typically around starting off too far, or, for example, every device is different. Some of the older Samsung devices, their cameras are really grainy, or they don't autofocus well enough. So it's always hard because there's so many different types of devices, and those internal cameras and all the algorithms for the autofocus and stuff handle things differently. But you can see I'm using an iPhone 10. I'm not embarrassed to say that I still have a 10. It's on its last leg, but you can see how quick it works. And I'm going to do it horizontal for you guys. That guys can see that as well. There we go. I just did it horizontal. It's not my preferred method. There we go. So again, my preference is hold it portrait, let it scan sideways. It will capture everything perfectly for you guys right there. So that is IV scanning. Very, very easy to populate new signers with that. And then we just go to the next step. And the rest of this is going to be, again, smooth sailing, just like the other one. We could put all the fees. We could put the additional fees. We can put all the documents. We can add our signing packages just like we did last time. Everything's going to be pretty much the same here. We could remove people or add them if you have multiple people like we talked about last time. You can get the signatures. You could turn this landscape. It'll mess up my screen share, so I won't do that. But easy money. Then we have our fingerprint scanning right there as well too. So for people who are in New York, like most of you guys are, it's not really something that you guys ever have to deal with and consider, which is nice. But we do actually have a surprisingly large amount of people who are not in California who practice thumbprint capture just as a best practice. All right. So in those cases, if you guys can see my screen, you see the actual window where you can see me physically, and I'm holding the little device. We sell this. And we ship it directly to you. And this is what you use to capture thumbprints. So then we just have this small little Bluetooth portable device, super easy, and we just capture those thumbprints, and we just allow you to have that data saved in the same secure encrypted manner as everything else, which is really nice. So this is technology that we developed and integrated specifically for the product. Nobody else has this as well too. So it is nice to have something like this, but not in, no, that wasn't a good one, not in for us in California, this is a really big deal. Like we really, really, really need to be able to do this. And in my opinion, if you do not have a digital thumbprint capture solution, then you don't have a compliant product. And that's obviously something that we want to make sure that we are letting our users know. We can capture prints digitally, and we're not just taking pictures. We're not just adding external files as well too. This is something that happens natively within the app once you have that piece of hardware there. Very important. So there you saw that nasty thumbprint of mine. And then we just move forward and we have the same review, the same email options we talked about, which are really cool. So you can still, of course, email this to the people at the end of the event, and then you just complete that entry. And very simple, very easy. We have a fully web and mobile notary journal solution for you guys that syncs across the board. Again, the only thing that doesn't sync right now is going to be those drafts, and they just don't sync quite yet. Almost there. But let me take a look at these. We do have Lori did put her question. Okay, Lori, awesome. So Lori says, sorry about that. I have Windows 11. Oh, okay, got it. No question. Awesome, Lori, you're the best. So that is the mobile demo. That is the web demo, and that is what our product can do for you. Other than that, we do have a lot in the pipeline. We're constantly doing things to make the product better and incorporate all this feedback. But there are a lot of things that I'm not in the position to really to discuss quite yet in terms of what we're trying to do. But if you could see here with a digital environment, we just have a lot more in terms of the opportunity for giving you a better solution, giving your signers a better experience, and then utilizing the data in a better way so that you could better your business, better protect your business, get better insight into it, whatever it might be. And other than that, I think the only other questions we typically have are price, 19 a month, billed monthly, 14 a month, billed annually. So we always tell people go to the annual if you know you're going to use a product because you save a lot more money that way, almost 25%. And I think that is, gosh, I'm trying to think. We talked about offline functionality. It's very important for people to understand. We talked about the ID scanning, thumbprints. Gosh, yeah. I think we're in a good spot. I think we got the majority.
You did a good job. You answered it all. And certainly when you have this new functionality that's top secret at the moment, we'd love to have you come back to do it again. But this was a super thorough for everybody who didn't see our demo a year ago. We'll replace that one with this one to show all of the web subs too. But yeah, I think we got it all. Any questions out there before I let you all proceed to, I can't believe we're rolling into the beginning of May and we're almost through our first week of it or partial week of it. So I know y'all want to get on to Friday to move along. Any questions out there? No. Nick, thank you so much. I always appreciate you coming out and doing these kinds of things for us. It's so important. We're going to go ahead. It's recorded. We're going to share it on all our social media channels, and we will also put the recording out there on the NINA site. I know that it said there were a lot of people who weren't able to make it because they have other obligations, but they'll definitely view it. Can I have them reach out to you? Where should they go if they have questions or concerns after this? Or they're like, yes, I want to sign up. Where should they go?
So I just put my email in the chat if anybody wants to reach out directly, nick@juratinc.com. You can go to juratinc.com, the website, to get your trial started. And, we do the 14-day free trial. We don't require a credit card upon sign up. I don't like that business practice. I want you to be able to touch it and feel it and play with it. So we give you 14 days to create up to 5 entries, and there's no cost and no credit card associated with it. And that way you could really see how you like it. Then from there, you can decide if you want to upgrade or not. But we always tell people, again, you play around with it, mess with it. We, of course, are biased. We love our product and we want people to try it. But I always emphasize by saying what I said in the beginning, that journaling is such an integral part to what we do as notaries, that if you have a workflow that works for you, then, stick with it and keep doing what you do as a notary to protect that information. We have a great digital product, so you could try it out, for free and see how you like it. But, there's a lot of integrity in this industry, and I do my best to be as transparent with you guys about what we do and why we do it. And I just always love the feedback that we get. We love the participation, and we love making the product better for you. So hoping to hear from you guys, see the feedback come in, and just keep going from there.
Thank you so much, everyone. Reach out to Nick. Make sure you're journal compliant. Journals, super, super important. Even if your state does not require a journal, it is protection for the consumer and it's protection for you. So good best practice. Thank you, Nick. Thank you to everybody who came today. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.